Whoa! Hi there. My name's Too Close to the Thingy Joe. Don't know why I set the cameras up. I just bought this little thing, actually in a complete computer system, and I wanted to use it, I think, as my main graphics card for now in my editing rig. So it's an R9 390 non-X. It's in Gigabyte WindForce edition, and after playing with the 295, I was pretty impressed with the performance that the Granada and Hawaii cores still offer. It's about RX 580 performance, especially if you overclock them far. But we can hear one problem with this one here. Say no bueno. It gets worse. Why did I set it up like this? Whoa! So yeah, we can't have that. That just sounds terrible. So I'm going to go ahead and take it apart, figure out why it sounds like there is a dead pump on a water loop running on the graphics card. And I might even just replace the cooler altogether, although I really like that look. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I believe one of the fans is just foobarred. I've already had a little bit of look at it. So we're going to, how can you fix a broken fan on a graphics card today on the program? My name's Timmy Joe. No!
Timmy Joe reviews anything.
Reviewing computer parts on YouTube.
That's right.
You gotta be pumped on that, right, Will? Computer parts! Woo!
Oh, yeah.
Alrighty! We're here on the table. This is the 390, I keep saying that. The WindForce 390 looks like a pretty modern card. Comes from the generation of like 980 Ti. I had a 980 Ti that was a 3-fan version that was a lot bigger. And you know what sucks is that this thing just does not suck the air through the heat sinks. And the fans on it sound like a little mini jet engine. Whoa! They're not very efficient. They're not very nice. So I've already had this thing apart before I thought to do a video on it. And I kind of realized that the fan is not going to be fixable. I believe that there's like a problem with how it's rotating on the, well, I guess we could start there, but what my whole plan is here, and I know that somebody named Linus has done this before, but I want to put these two Noctua fans inside the original housing so that it's either the same size, sort of, either by just like cutting this off, which is really not, that efficient, and plus there's 3 poles for how they connect, so I don't know how I would do it, but I could maybe figure it out. Or like clear out a portion of this so that I can actually physically put these in here. But the reason why I want to do this isn't a card that I can resell or put in a system very easily because it's so noisy, somebody's bound to complain about it. And unless I fix it absolutely perfect, I don't really feel right putting it in a system. I have a business, I sell computers, and one of my biggest problems is every time I get a cool graphics card that I think will live in my system, I wind up pulling it out and using it in a system to sell, and then the Titan eventually makes its way back in there. The Titan's fine. It's about 1060 RX 580 performance on the low end, especially if you overclock it. But I want to put a FreeSync capable graphics card. This is the perfect candidate. It'll play 1080p, 1440p games like PUBG, and does anyone even play PUBG anymore? Every time I try to play, it says the servers are busy. Anyways, I want to be able to play some games on this thing and never take it out. And if I butcher it, I'm not going to put it in a system for sale. So let's butcher it up, yo. Get this thing undone. So these cards are notorious, as we're about to experience this again. Basically, they just kept revamping the 7970s architecture, and they made a really big die out of basically the same, GCN architecture, called it GCN like 2 or 3.0 by then, and started making these higher end, more stream processors cards. Where a 7970 was a revolutionary card, and they kept rebranding it. It was a 7970 gigahertz edition, and then it was the 280X, and then the 380X. They just kept recycling things, and this was a bigger, better variant, and it was a step in, but it was very, very hot. And typically, I don't see these with very good coolers on them. Usually, you know, every time I kind of see one, their coolers are overused, and they wind up breaking or whatever. Something happens. The last 390 I had, one of the fins was broken. It was an MSI version. But definitely what I noticed with this thing, there we go, is it runs hot. And I changed the thermal paste on it, and it still didn't fix much. So here we go. We have, come on, there we go. We have the bare PCB. It's a pretty nice little PCB here. Oh, I want to leave the, not break it. I want to leave the back plate on it, and then we'll leave this setup going on, the heat sink. Like, I could put this on it and very easily make it nice. But what I want is it to look nice in the system. I want to see that weight force. I don't want it to be this big, ugly carbon fiber thing I've rigmarolled like 20 times. Even though this is probably a much better cooling solution. It's 5 heat pipes instead of 4. No, I'd keep this out of the mix. That's a much better cooler than that's on there, but whatever. At least we can Noctua this up and probably get it looking pretty cool. So now we got the shroud off, the shroud of GPU-ing. All right, so these would be just easily replaceable. Unfortunately, we're not going that route. I want to put these full-fledged Noctuas in there, get the temps on this thing a lot lower, because it actually overclocks fairly decently. And I'm pretty psyched about the prospect of this card. It's a nice little card. I'm going to do it. I'm going to cut... Ah! Poor Noctua fans! So if this is in here and we can bend these, I just need to mount it at 3 spots, and I have the screws that fit in those holes. This is so perfect. These don't come off, do they? That would make things so easy. No. All right, I'm going to get this lined up like this. My batteries are exhausted anyways, so we'll figure it out later. Whoa! All right, you see the comparison? That's pretty damn impressive. There's, it's running at what, 86% fan speed right now, and you can barely hear it. Where before it sounded like a pump in a AIO was dying or something. It sounded really, really weird. And I've since I hurt my finger. See, I'm bleeding. And it's because I was trying to see why these things were broken. And if we look into this one, it's broken. That's why. It's like literally this like piece of circuit board kind of broke off of where it's supposed to be mounted. That must have been rattling in there once it got up to speed. So maybe it could have been repaired, but in the end, I'm glad we replaced them with the Noctua because they're just in general a much less noisy fan. They're very, very quiet. I mean, we're running at 1100 megahertz and almost 2000 on, or 1924 on the memory, and it's running at 1100 megahertz strong at 87 degrees, and you can barely hear it. So I'm at Watch Timmy Joe on Instagram, Twitter, and I hope if you learned anything today, it was just that you got to get down and dirty sometimes and fix your shit. You got to fix your stuff. If it's broken, don't throw it out. You know, just take it apart. Find some Noctua fans that'll make it work again. Maybe you could even repair something like that. But it's just fun to mess around and get your hands full of blood and sometimes, and then you get your computer working together. But I'm going to enjoy this 390, even though it's a very warm, oh my god, it's so hot to the touch. The back plate is ridiculous. But it's at 88 degrees, which is acceptable limits for an overclock on it, that's for sure. And I can hear myself think right now, so it's not like before when it was blowing it out. But at Watch Timmy Joe, Instagram and Twitter. I have a Patreon. If you could help me out on Patreon, support the channel, a couple of bucks here and there. What that does is it allows me to buy cool things for the channel, like R9 295 X2s to play with, stuff like that. And in the near future, we're going to have some pretty cool stuff coming up on the channel. I've been working, a little bit on some content for the channel, stuff like that. Be fun. So I'll see you guys in another video. Thanks very much for watching. Go repair your GPU fans if you can, and don't just like buy an Accelero. Get down and dirty and make her look stock like I did.